So for today's special guest, I have Jonathan Johnson, Executive Director of the Hawaii State Foundation of the Culture and Arts, and my colleague, Chair Cedric Gates, with me to talk all about art in Hawaii. Happy Aloha Friday! Friday! So grateful to both of you being here today with me. I'm going to direct my first question to Jonathan. Jonathan, can you give our audience a brief overview of the foundation's broad programs?
Wow, thank you for having us here. And I'll just make it real clear. If I can't get it all in, you can find it on our website, right? So we'll put that up later. But our mission is to promote, perpetuate, and preserve culture and arts in Hawaii. And how do we do that? We do that through a whole bunch of different ways. A couple of things I'd like to emphasize in our vision are that we share in the responsibility to perpetuate the Native Hawaiian culture and arts. So we do a lot of work in that regard, and everything we do, we also believe that in community-based decision-making. So if you want to influence legislation, or like what we do, every decision we make is community-based. So we have panels for grants and panels for choosing art, and everybody can participate. So that's all available on our website also. So why do we do culture and arts? Because we believe that culture and arts and engagement in the arts are critical to the economics, education, social well-being of individuals in Hawaii. And we do that through the support of the legislature, right? So we get funding from the legislature. We get funding from the National Endowment for the Arts that we pass out to organizations. And we have a 1% law, which generates money. We also, in times of need, get additional aid. So this year, we were fortunate to distribute $427,000 in coronavirus aid to arts organizations that went out there. And then we also were looking at another 770 in American Recovery Act funding. And this is separate than what the state of Hawaii gets. So in addition to that, we'll be getting that money. So how do we help? We give grants to organizations, to schools, and to individuals. So for example, organizations, performing arts organizations, most of our grants go to performing arts, like Ballet Hawaii. We'll see a clip in a minute of them, how they shifted, and we help fund that. So they've shifted to television, which made a greater impact. We give a lot of grants to like Hula Preservation Society, Pa'i Foundation, Prince Lot Hula Festival, Mana Maoli, lots of organizations that are doing the work. We actually don't do that, but we fund that. We fund schools. So we have arts and education programming in like 113 schools teaching art standards. And we also do a lot of professional development for teachers and teaching artists. So a lot of DOE teachers get trained through programs we fund.
Can I just jump in right here,
Yeah.
Jonathan? I know that we spotlighted it a little bit in the clip that we just saw, but can you talk a little bit about the Scholastic Arts Competition?
Sure. So we believe in recognizing creativity. Kids get recognized for academics or athletics, but creativity really matters. So we champion student art. So we have an exhibit now. I think Kamakani will talk about it, or he just did. Where that's 7 through 12. That closes tomorrow. And then following in May, I think May 14th, we open K through 7th grade. So recognizing student creativity is really, really important. We believe that participating in the arts, it's really healthy for the kids. They learn how to communicate with each other and work together, and it's learn a lot of 21st century skills. So that's one thing that we do is arts education. And who who started that it became part of our law. Yeah.
One more question about student and artwork. I know that you also have an art bento program, and I believe Karen Ewald in that segment talked a little bit about it, but could you expand a little bit about what art bento is?
Sure. So art bento is a museum education program that we have at the Hawaii State Art Museum that has a variety of different segments to it. So there's a tour of the museum. There's a engagement part where they work and make or take or movement or music. And then there's also in-house where the teacher goes into the classroom and works with them. And we also do a lot statewide, so we're in schools statewide through our Artists in the Schools program. doing a lot of that interpretation. We can credit Speaker Calvin Say for making sure when he was a freshman, he inserted the language that student art is part of our mission. So that's kind of a tie back to you guys. This year, we actually have a lot of media. We'll talk about media we have videos that are running that kids are working on in the classrooms. We also do artist in residence programs. I think we have a video program going on at Waianae Intermediate School now, and lots of media things going on statewide too.
Well, just to circle back, you started off by saying that one of the missions is to perpetuate Hawaiian art, culture, and history. So can we talk a little bit about the Art in Public Places program and what that collection means for Hawaiian and local artists? And I think that's going to actually segue nicely, and maybe Rep. Gates can chime in a little bit about the Art at the Capitol program, because I think those two are kind of linked. So Jonathan, I'll throw it to you first.
Okay, sure. The folk and traditional part is where we really focus on, hula and chant and slack key and kapa. And now we're working in things like Ulana Ie and hula ki'i and Hawaiian traditional weaving. Those are all funded separately than the Art in Public Places collection. What we do with Art in Public Places is we acquire works of art through exhibits and then put them in our Museum Without Walls program. So that's where we put like art behind you, art in the Capitol, art statewide in schools, hospitals, libraries, airports, and we collect. And we have a current exhibit in Haisam right now by Ho'ohuli Ikalima, which focuses on the marginalized Native Hawaiian community from our collection. And it's curated by Native Hawaiians. You'll see it in the video later on. It's really focused on the underrepresentation or misrepresentation and the hopes and the desire to actually make that shift. So we've been putting a lot of effort into that area of support.
Rep. Gates, did you want to comment anything? I know that this week has been a particularly busy week here at the Capitol with art at the Capitol. It hasn't been like it's been in the past, but I know that you and Senator Taniguchi have been very busy in showcasing the art in public places that are here at the Capitol. Can you speak a little bit about that, Rep. Gates?
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. That's something that has been a tradition for over a decade at the Capitol, to have constituents and just the public in general come and see the art that is provided by the State Foundation on Culture and Arts to our offices, and also highlight our outlook on these artworks. So that's always a cool thing to have. This year we did go virtual. So unfortunately the Capitol is still closed. So we have videos that were produced and supported by the State Foundation on Culture and Arts to be able to share with our public through social media. And today is the last day for Art at the Capitol. It started on Wednesday. We have projections out on the front of the state capitol, and of course our social media presence. So we're hoping that it reaches the homes and the hopes and spirits of our constituents out there, and hopefully they enjoy it as much as we do.
I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, Rep. Gates. What is the piece that you featured in your little clip for Art at the Capitol?
So that piece was a piece that's at my alma mater at Kamaili Elementary, and that piece is called The Gift of Life. And what that represents to me is, how our school system, and Kamaili in particular, provides life for our community, provides the education and the training we need to succeed. And that's what I felt strongly on sharing with our community. And the artist, if we can have JJ.
Yeah, Biliami Tolutau.
Yes.
I think Rep. Gates and I were both there when that piece was dedicated. We just didn't know each other.
Correct.
So, I'm going to go a little bit off script, because I know that that's what the pandemic does. Jonathan, we got 5 more minutes. What's on the horizon for the foundation from your perspective? I know that we are like looking at tight budget times, but we're hopeful with the monies coming down from the federal government. I'm always amazed at the resiliency of our creative community. We're going to look at some of that in other parts of this segment. But what for you is on the horizon for the foundation and for the arts community?
Okay, so this year we are implementing a couple major shifts. So we've added in our grants category media arts, and also a category called arts and healing, where we'll be addressing veterans, aging adults, incarcerated youth and adults, making our grants available to people who serve those communities. So really focus on the underserved. Then we're also working on a project right now that will be opening up in, I think, July, which is fellowships programs, funding individuals. You know, a lot of the creative community, it's the individuals, the gig workers, the musicians that haven't been getting the funding. You know, the funding we get from American Recovery and from CARES isn't available to individuals unless it goes through an organization. So we're working on a way of how do we actually make that funding available to the people who need it the most in the creative economy.
I know that was really a vulnerable spot exposed by this pandemic. You know, I think, you know, Chair Gates and I both kind of toured the unemployment center, and it was heartbreaking to hear about people who couldn't qualify for unemployment, but they still had lost their jobs. It's just that they weren't traditionally employed. So that's, I think, very encouraging that you folks are looking at it. And so it'll be, will that be something that will be publicized on your website, Jonathan?
Absolutely. So we'll be making actually everything we do is available on our website and through our social media accounts. And it's people just need to go to www.sfca.hawaii.gov and sign up for our newsletter, and all the grant opportunities, where we're going to acquire works of art, calls for panelists to participate and help us make decisions. All those are there, and even our CARES and our funding from this American Recovery Act, we'll put it there, so that we want the broadest available applications for it. Yeah.
Rep. Gates, if you wanted to chime in with any questions. I mean, I think we've seen how important arts is to the community and to the economy. Any thoughts for you on like how we might be able to help support Jonathan's efforts? I mean, I think we've seen the great works at the Art Museum.
Yeah, I think, you know, it comes down to the budget and funding and supporting them and making sure that they have enough resources to distribute throughout the community. And so we're still working on finalizing the budget right now. But one of the things that I want to do is preserve the grants that they do provide to our community, because it does a great service to not just those that are receiving the funding, but also the artwork that they display for our consumption. And I think that's something important that we need to continue to support. And that's something that I'm committed to working with Jonathan on, ensuring that we have those resources available. It's difficult because we are in the time of COVID. We're trying to fill the budget shortfalls that we do have right now. But I think that it's just important to realize the importance of culture and arts in our communities and the impacts that they have that we may not all see. So I'm very excited to just be chairing this committee and to have great people like Jonathan and, of course, leadership and our colleagues to support what we're trying to do.
Jonathan, I wanted to cycle back to that notion of healing, because I had heard when we visited the new Performing Arts Center out in Wanalua High School, the First Lady talked about healing and the arts. So I'm going to give you the last 30 seconds. You know, can you speak to any takeaways that you have from this pandemic and how maybe arts has been played a healing role in our community from your vantage point?
You know, we just completed a COVID call. So we solicited to artists in the fall, asking them to turn in images of the works that they've created. And similar to the Scholastic show that you saw, where they make themselves vulnerable, right? You can see into the souls of these children. Well, we did it for the adults too, and we'll be acquiring a whole lot of major works by Hawaii artists. And you can really see how they work through a lot of the issues of being at home or being in Hawaii and struggling. There's also a lot of hope in those images as people work through those challenges of, what we all went through. But we'll have that as a record as in through the eyes of artists of what Hawaii is like during a pandemic.
I will be very eager to see when you put that collection together, because I think 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to be looking back on this time and being like, we lived through this. And it's the art. It's going to be the art that expresses that.